Okay, so what I want to do in this video is continue looking at a source analysis, a bit of source interrogation in the template. I want to have a little bit of a look at how we might pick up on some of those words in your ISMG, such as discerning identification of features, discerning examination of features. So we're going to have a look at that now through a little bit of highlighting, and hopefully through the highlighting we're going to be exploring this particular element of the analysing part of the ISMG, criteria of the ISMG. I want to try and model, if I can, some discerning identification of features in the evidence of primary and secondary sources and the detailed examination of the features. Identification, examination of features. It's your cab mop and it's your wrap. So think about it again, adamant, cab mop, map. Go back, have a look at our notes, think about what each of those elements are. They're tools that will help you to unlock features. They'll help you unlock other elements of analysis that are worth considering. So this is our ISMG. These are our objectives for analysing. We've got tools. How do we work them into a document? Well, let's have a look. In this source analysis, when I get back to it, in this source analysis, I've done some highlighting. So let's move it up now. Firstly, I've started to think of some of my adamant terms. Okay, we've got authorship. We're starting to think origin. We're starting to think agenda. So how do they come through? What's it from? What's its origin? Well, the origin of this source is in Bottom's History of the Frontier Wars. What does that book hope to achieve? What is its agenda? Well, it sets out to present readers with the awful truth at the heart of Queensland's pastoral settlement. So I've actually drawn upon this source in a different part, quoted, to get at what it's all about. Now, thinking about the author again. Now, I'm doing other things, by the way, in here besides just identification of features. But I've then gone, well, who is this author? I've done a bit of a stalk. I've said he is a member of the Professional Historians Association of Queensland. He's considered a specialist in Queensland frontier. What does his work do generally? Well, it's got an agenda to engage with the wider public. We're starting to think about also audience. Who is he expecting to read? The wider public. He's also engaging with Indigenous perspectives, and that would be a technique. And if I move down a little bit further, he also draws upon oral histories, another technique. So just by using this element, I've started to think a bit about these, and I'll drag it down again, these features of this particular secondary source. I've been able to pick up on some of those adamant, cab mop terms, wrap terms that help me to explore the source. So let's have a look at something else in a moment. Okay, so let's now look at how some evaluation might appear within this source interrogation. Look at the ISMG, think about what it's saying. I need to make some judgments about usefulness and reliability if I can within my source interrogation. But I know I can do this in other parts of the ISI as well. I would like to make those judgments based upon the evidence of primary and secondary sources. I can go outside the source that I am evaluating, looking at other sources that help me to evaluate it. And I should try to refer to different perspectives throughout my source analysis as I'm evaluating. People see things different ways. I'm trying to identify perspectives, and I can do all sorts of things with that. And judgments are well reasoned and corroborated. Okay, when I make my judgments, I back it up. Some of my judgments here are quite implicit. So let's see how I've done it, and you can see in this area that I'm hovering down the bottom, okay, you can see that I've done some color coding. Let's see what that looks like in the Word document. Okay, so when I was color coding before, clicked off it, I'm sorry. When I was color coding before, I was using green to indicate that I am looking at analysis. Now we're talking about the yellow, that is evaluation. Okay, so let's see the evaluative comments. Bottom's identification of a pattern has been corroborated by other historians, including Baldry, McKinnon, McDougall. Okay, think about it. There it is. Well reasoned and corroborated. Okay, so I'm in business there. I'm starting to make some corroborations. Okay, then I'm talking McHugh, and they point out the violence was systematic, traced to pastoralist expansion using other sources, evidence from other sources, referring to Bottom's perspective. So I'm backing up Bottom's idea that there's a pattern and corroborating it with what other historians are doing in other sources. There's an interplay there. I talk about how escalations in violence, such as that perpetrated by Dowling's white posse, a phrase that turns up over in this section, has also been identified in other sources. So the perspective here in Bottoms, Dowling's white posse is mentioned down in this section here, okay, is being supported by other sources, including Bell and Wallace. And I've got a quote from them, another perspective, that corroborates, here it is, it corroborates my source and the judgments I'm making. Okay, ignore that little bit of green, not sure what I did there. Now, I have to evaluate the source's usefulness and reliability. How might I do that? I look at the quality of the author, the authority of the author in what they're saying. How are they respected? How are they seen by their peers? Have they done the hard yards of work within the professional community that they're a part of? Let's have a look. Well, Bottoms is a member of the Historians Association of Queensland. That's, in a sense, giving him authority, and I'm starting to there say he is perhaps reliable because of that. Okay, he's considered a specialist, and I reference that idea. Now I'm definitely getting to the idea of reliability. Okay, in a body of work that he has created, he's engaging the Queensland public and engaging with Indigenous perspectives. So I'm saying here is, the judgments use evidence and refer to a different perspective. Bottoms uses perspectives that are consistent with Indigenous positions. I'm making a judgment on his work, how reliable and useful it is, and for what groups and what voices it brings in. This is evidenced, I back up the perspectives, with his work with NITV, National Indigenous Television, and communities in Arakoon and Kawanyama, which are Indigenous communities in North Queensland. Now I've drawn upon what others say about him. How useful, how reliable is it? Well, his book makes a significant contribution to the historiography, the histories that are written about the dispossession of Queensland Aboriginal communities. Okay, so it's useful for those people studying the history of dispossession of Queensland Aboriginal communities. Quite an evaluative comment. And then I've backed this up with some more information here that is actually looking at features. David Stevens indicates his work sets out to dispel a myth by that was apparently a peaceful filling up of the country. Here is a feature. It's part of the agenda of Bottoms. So I'm switching in and out of agenda. I'm switching in and out of features. I'm picking up on reliability when I'm talking about evaluative comments. And if I were to overlay those two colours, if I had these two different colour codings going on, you'd see some very interesting interplays. All right, then another bit of feature, and then I'm back to referring to perspectives that are included in my source analysis, perspectives about these sources. The perspectives of oral history have been overlooked in traditional approaches. And then another historian, Ray Evans, says that Bottoms has taken a careful and wide-reaching approach to his work, which gets at reliability, gets at, again, a corroboration of my views, it gets at other sources all interplaying together to give a very clear idea that this is a reliable source.